Hi, this is Torsten from Brainstorm, and you're watching CMS TV.
It is Chris Akin Presents. I, of course, am Chris Akin. Today on the show, we are going to be talking to a newer band that features at least one guy that I've known for 2 decades. It's a cool new band. It's called Limberlost. They are getting ready. I'm assuming to release a full selection of music coming soon. They've given us one song, Give It To Me, the redo. And here to talk about it is Mike, Britney, and Steve of Limberlost. Guys, how are you?
Doing great, man.
Awesome,
Good.
buddy. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Well, guys, let's start off with kind of the traditional starting point. Somebody pick a side and tell us a little bit about Limberlost and how you guys came to be.
Go for it, Mike.
Well, it started, she's probably about, 15, 16 years ago. And we started, let me see if we can get this doing a little better here. We went through a bunch of different changes, started recording probably 2016, I think is when we started releasing music. And then we had some band changes. We've had a recent one about a year ago, which we'll get to, but then I think it was 2018, was it?
Okay.
It was 2018. We added Britney and we added Tony to our team. And then just this last year, we decided to go a little bit different direction sonically and stuff. And so Britney and I had written this new album, Beautiful Scars, that we released last year. And we sent that out to some friends and stuff and said, hey, we're looking to retool. And that's how we ended up with Steve and his son, Devin. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all came together. And now we're moving forward. And yes, we just released Give It To Me, the redo. And we that is part of a new EP that'll be coming out later this year called Villain.
Sure. Do you feel like because so much has changed, do you feel like this is almost like a redo of the band, let alone the song?
I think it is. I think that was part of why we yeah, that's kind of why we redid this song, because when we originally wrote this song in 2023, it was right before we went on tour with Yngwie Malmsteen over in Europe. And we released the song over in Europe just to kind of have something to push the radio and so forth ahead of our tour. And then we knew kind of coming off that tour that we were going to have to make some changes, and we wanted to kind of go a little bit different direction. So Give It To Me kind of just fell on the heap. We never released it over here. And so then we retooled the band, retooled our sound, kind of became a new thing. And it was like, it just made sense to retool the song, to fit what we're doing now and fit the personnel that we have now.
Sure.
So that's what you have now in that song.
Awesome. All right. Well, Steve, for you, I have two questions. One, how do you get involved with this? And two, is it weird being in a band with your kid?
Okay. Well, let's see here. Well, for starters, I mean, I've known Mike and Limberlost for, like probably a decade or more. My son's band, Sin Circus, and these guys crossed a lot of paths. They played a lot of shows together. And Mike and I kind of struck up a friendship, went out to lunch a few times, talked about business, talked about how bad things are and how good things could be. We just made a pretty good friendship over the years. And, about a little over a year ago now, he reached out after they got back from this European tour. And, when you're on tour, you find out a lot about people, and you find out who's cut out to do tour life and be in a band and who's not. Apparently they needed to replace their bass player and a guitar player. And he reached out to me to ask if I knew of anybody. And I was like, well, send me your latest material. And he sent the newest stuff over. And I was like, man, this stuff is great. And so I sent it. I called my son and I was like, hey, man, have you heard the new stuff that Mike is doing with Limberlost? And he's like, no, I haven't. So I sent it over to him, and he calls me back. He's like, are you shitting me? This is Limberlost? And I was like, yeah, man, this is the direction they're going now. And so I called Mike back, and I was like, "Hey, man, I think I got you guys a bass player and a guitar player." And he's like, "Sweet." And he goes, "Who you thinking about?" And I was like, "Well, what do you think about me and my son Devin?" And they sounded pretty excited about it, and we started sending things back and forth. And next thing you know, they came up and we got into a room together, and it just started to happen. And man, we jumped in a room, we started doing stuff, making videos, and whatnot. And next thing you know, here we are talking to you a year later.
There we go. Well, and I'm curious. This is somewhat for you, Steve, but I'm gonna start with Brittany. But it's going to be the same question to both of you. This is not what you guys have been, I guess, known for. I guess. I mean, Brittany, you're obviously a classically trained opera singer, and Steve certainly Metal Church and NYC, and you're much more of a metal guy. It's from the outside, it's a very strange collaboration that does work when you hear it, but when you just read it, it's like, how's this all going to play? So, Brittany, I'll start with you. Talk a little bit about yourself coming into this, and was it difficult to come out of the opera world into a more metallic metal place?
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, not at all. Because for me at that point, I really only dipped my toes, I would say, in the opera world, because once it got very real, it got very opera or nothing,
Okay.
And at that point in my life, I also, I was in Italy. I was singing in operas, and I was enjoying more going to the local dive bars and playing on their pianos and bringing people in from the crowd. I enjoyed more modern music. And so when I came back from that experience, I had a couple of soft offers on the table to sing in different opera houses, and I turned them all down because I was just like, this is, I don't like it. Like I didn't feel like I thought I would like it. I want to go back to what I wanted to do, which was like, I want to sing everything Celine Dion does, and I want to do modern music, and I want to have a band. And so I eventually, it was, again, my story is very like A Star is Born. It's we have our little movies. So Mike is rock star, mine is A Star is Born, because I was we're friends with Sammy Shafi, who invited me on stage at one of his concerts to sing one of his songs. And Mike was in the audience at that time too. And so that was inevitably how I became Limberlost's second singer, and still am from there, because we're still a 2-singer band. So that's how it is. But we did lose our former original singer. So yeah, it was not difficult for me, because that was the switch I was wanting. You know what I mean? It wasn't like thrust upon me and I had to make the decision. It was one I searched for. So
Sure. And how about you, Steve?
Well, I mean, for me, this is a definite departure from what the Metal Church stuff is, for sure. But that's okay, because I mean, from my background, I like a lot of different types of music. Everything from Elvis Presley to Metal Church and everything in between. So on a personal note, although it's a big departure music-wise for me, in my own heart, and my own, the way I look at music, good music is good music. And whether it's a love song, or whether it's a love-hate song, or whether it's a hate song, whether you're banging your head or whether you're just kind of tapping your toe, if it's good, it's good. And the Limberlost material is really good. Now, I have to approach it from a different angle, playing bass for it, because like in bands like NYC and Metal Church, I'm like the driving force. The drums and the bass are just push, push, push all the time. It's like just wild horses are rolling down the road. But with Limberlost, it's a whole other approach. It's kind of like instead of pushing the horses, I'm like grabbing them by the reins and holding them back and filling in all the space. So mentally for me, it's kind of a mind twist, because it's not what I'm used to playing. But I think that it's helped me kind of grow as a bass player, because I've been forced to change my way of thinking to fit the Limberlost material. And what has come out of it is great. We've done a couple of live runs and stuff. We did a run of the South, and by the end of it, everything just kind of fell in place and started to feel natural for me to play that stuff instead of having to think about it so much. But
Right on.
Hey, you. Why are you watching this with commercials? Go commercial free and unlock exclusive content. Become a VIP today on Locals, Substack, or Rumble Premium. Stop waiting.
Well, one of the things that I wonder about with a band like Limberlost, and Mike, this is probably for you, but whoever wants to take it, I guess. I don't imagine it's easy to find a lot of things, bands to play with, acceptance, etc., just because it doesn't fit into the box that we all know as hard rock, heavy metal. You know, it does fall outside of that, which makes it more difficult. Is it more difficult from all aspects, from finding a record deal, from finding bands, from finding gigs, to, you know, getting people to be open-minded enough to listen to it, versus what happens mostly today, which is they give you 30 seconds, and if it doesn't grab them instantly, you're passed. Is that a hard road to hoe here?
Yeah, it's definitely, it definitely exists. I think, just like in anything, business, relationships, whatever, attitude is everything, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think the attitude at which we approach it will, dictate some of that too. But yeah, I think that there have been, I would say that there's probably been situations where we've probably maybe been passed over or looked past or whatever, just because we don't, we're just not as familiar. I met a DJ just at NAMM here, Mike Zara, this last week, I guess it was a week ago. And I remember asking him, hey, program, and he works for like one of the competitors in LA. Anyway, he made a comment. He said, when I asked him, what's the main thing you guys are looking for programming when you're programming music? And he just looked at me and he goes, familiarity, and that's so true. It's like, I don't want to say it like this, but it's the only way I can say it. It's kind of like people just want to hear the same thing that they've just heard, Mm-hmm. So yes, it is a little different for a band like Limberlost because we don't follow those rules necessarily, but I would say that this version of us is probably built a little bit more towards trying to be more part of that community.
Sure. Our
manager's Paul Crosby from, Saliva,
Mm-hmm.
good friends, and he's been there with us since 2015. So, there's been, and I have a couple other mentors too that, they've helped mold that, but, at the same time, I think we offer something sonically that's maybe a little different, and we don't want to totally whitewash that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we want to kind of stay and do, have our identity, but I don't know. I think we've been able to get some pretty good gigs. I think people are starting to stand up and take a little more notice of us now.
Sure.
We've got, but yeah, it has been a little bit, I would say it's probably been hindered us a little bit, not being mainstream metal guys,
Mm-hmm. Is there a line between creativity and commerce?
Wow. Ooh, that's a really good question. Because
that's almost like the sellout question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is in a way, but I'll tell you why I'm asking. I'm not asking saying, hey, are you guys a sellout? I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is you guys are obviously creative people. Just in general, you're just creative people. And that doesn't always account to a career. No. There's a lot of creative people that draw that don't ever sell anything. Right. And look, I write books. That doesn't mean that I'm selling a ton of books. It just means I write them. There in this, where this is your gig, your job, where is that line, I guess, between keeping your creative as full as you want it to without feeling you're selling out?
Well, see, if I'd actually like to answer this one, because I think that that's where people keep themselves small, is when they equate it to selling out, or when they look at the rules of the game as restrictions to their creativity. versus this is a business and these are the rules and this is what I need to provide, and I need to make sure that my song is this long, otherwise they're not going to take it on the radio, and it needs to be within these tempos, otherwise they're not going to take it on the radio. And
Sure.
there's all these rules that I think that if you take those and say, oh, I'm stifled because of these rules, then you're always going to live in this small space of being stifled. You're always going to come from being stifled, versus if you look at it like a business and say, all right, here are the obstacles to overcome for me to succeed in my business, then they don't become things that are hindering you. They just become things for you to overcome. You say, all right, I can play your game. I can write you the best song at 3 minutes and 33 seconds with that the chorus in 30 seconds. You want to play those rules? I'll play those rules, and I'll show you how good my creativity is. And to me, I think that when artists can't approach it like that, that's going to be that defining thing. They end up stopping themselves.
Yeah,
Sure.
So that's the line for me, is I don't think it stifles creativity at all. I think that if you're creative, that there are always rules to games.
Mhm.
Every game has rules to them, and that's what makes it fun. So once you find the rules, now it's become fun because now you can play the game.
I think one of the things that did it for me right out of the gate was Gene Simmons had a statement. He said, "It's not the music; it's the music business." And it was like, wow, a light bulb went on, because we look at who he is and what he's created. And I know, Steve's a huge Kiss fan, but I mean, they are probably one of the premier marketing, probably one of the premier marketing music businesses out there.
Sure.
And it's like you look at that and say that they've had a great career and they sell a lot of they're just very highly successful. So why wouldn't you listen to that? You don't have to be them, but you can listen to that and say, yeah. And to Brittany's point, I think there's so many people out there that create taboos in the business for themselves.
Sure. Well, then let me build on this a little bit. You're obviously working, as you guys mentioned, with Paul Crosby from Saliva. Saliva is the ultimate 3 to 4 minute song band. I mean, I like them, but I mean, Click Click Boom and whatever are probably right at 3:33. I mean, they write that way. So how do you convince a guy like that is coming from the other side of it, more of the commerce than the creative side? How do you convince a person like that what you do can work as well?
Yeah, well, it dovetails into something, that I think that also is an important component of the music and the music business, and that is relationships.
Right.
There's a certain amount of time that I think that most people don't put into that. Everybody's always looking for the brass ring or the, hey, how do I get your connection and how do I, hook me up, bro, and all that kind of stuff. And they don't realize that there's sometimes years and years and years that goes into building these relationships and meeting people and finding people that can lean into what that you inspire, and I would say that if you can, our relationship with Paul is one where he believes in us because of the relationship we have with him. It's not necessarily always about the art, it's also about the person. Hey, I know these guys are going to go do what they say they're going to do,
sure.
And stuff. And I can get behind that. And then he can help us with the course corrections and the advice and so forth along the way that helps us make the right decisions and play the, like Brittany was saying, it's in take those, what some people look at as constraints and say, well, how can we mold that into what we're doing and make us better? If you go back and look at our previous catalogs, our old catalog before Beautiful Scars, you'll definitely see we made some changes and some pretty drastic ones. That's why we dropped a whole album at once. Again, some of the advice we were getting, everybody's going, no, it's
a business choice again. So you talk about commerce versus business. That was a business choice. We did that because we knew that we were going to do this. We had all this budget for marketing, and we were going to do this promotion, and we were going to put this together. And that if you loved Alien, if you loved our first song we were going to put out, you weren't going to find anything really like it in our catalog. It made more sense as a business.
You ask about Saliva being the 3 minute and 33 second song. I think that Saliva, like when you hear them come on the radio, right away that that's Saliva because they have their sound. Whether they kept it within the confines of the 333 or all the radio friendly parameters that they're working with, you still can tell that it's Saliva, and it's still good. And I think that like with Limberlost stuff, as far as selling out, I absolutely don't think so. because the material is still amazing. Yes, it is a little bit different, but you know what? You can only reinvent the wheel so many times before people start rolling their eyes. So if you ever want to become anything that does stand out, so that when people do hear you on the radio, they got to be able to be like, that's Saliva. Or the first, I mean, when you hear a Kiss song come on, the first 2 seconds of the vocals, you're like, man, that's Paul Stanley singing. You know, it has a sound. They have their sound. And even though they work within the parameters of what people call, you know, radio friendly, it still works because they're using their sound in a radio friendly manner. And I kind of think that that Limberlost here, we do the same thing because it's a very commercial sound. There's nothing that's not commercial about it in any way, shape, or form. But it does sound different than anything, and it's just little subtleties within the music that Limberlost does that makes it that way. And I think that's one of the signature sounds that Limberlost has, is that you listen to it and you just kind of tapping your toe to it that it sounds good. But if you really listen to it and you break it down, there's a lot of stuff going on in there. There really is.
Right on.
Get more metal in your inbox. The Classic Metal Show is on Substack. Listen or watch for free or subscribe for VIP exclusive content. Find us at cmspn.substack.com.
Well, guys, on this show, we try to tell everybody it's okay if you stream something, but you better be buying something. You know, don't just lamely go to Spotify. You know,
Thank you.
Support the bands. The real question is, where do we send them to support you guys and buy a single, a tchotchke, a hat, whatever it would be?
Well, if they're hot, you can send them to my house. That really support things.
You got to pay for that pool, right, Steve?
Yeah.
You know, you bring up a great question, Chris. I would go to our website, because when you go to our website, you can get into our store. We actually put all our music up on there. We have we kind of have the Walmart of rock and roll stores there. I mean, you can get just about everything, or more of like an Amazon maybe. But we also, you know, that's a big thing. You know, I was talking with another friend of mine, Mick Blankenship, and he was really pushing this idea hard that if just half my followers would download my single for $1 every time I put a single out, I would never need a record label.
Right.
You know, because I would have enough just from that $1 support. And, you know, if you go to Spotify and stream, you'd have to stream my song 3 times a day for a whole year for me to make, after all the different, to get all the different publishing and blah, blah, blah back through my PRO. You'd have to do that 3 times a day for a whole year for me to make the same $1.50. You could go in and download my single off my website.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, go to our website, buy direct from the, you know, because yes, do all those other things. Yes, please subscribe, please stream, please save, do all that helps, share. But you know, at the end of the day, if you really want to support the musician, that's where we get our best support. And come to the shows and buy a T-shirt and all that. But you know, support the music, buy the music. That's the thing that's missing. Nobody has to buy music anymore. Mm-hmm. So they don't.
Yeah, they make you guys glorified T-shirt salesmen.
That's what it is.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and then you go to Europe and the guy at the street's your glorified T-shirt salesman.
Right.
They bootleg over there. But anyway, yeah, so it's a great question, and I think it's one that I think we're really prepared to push more to moving forward is, you know, support your bands. There's a lot of ways to do it, but that $1.50 every time a single came out, if you had 20,000 followers buying that thing, you know, and you release 5 or 6 singles a year, you have all your production and marketing money, and you can go out and tour, you know. Right. So
no, you're right. What is the web address?
Limberlostmusic.com. Correct.
All right, there we go. So everybody should go over there, limberlostmusic.com. Buy something, you cheap shits. For God's sakes, buy something.
We have Steve's Refreshing Limber Lube on our site.
We do.
There's a lot of possibilities that you guys could market with. You could go with the limber, you could go with the lumbar, you know, lumbar lost. You know, there's all kinds of options.
Yeah, lumberlust. Yeah.
There you go. Nice. Well, guys, one more time, people should check out today the redo of "Give It to Me." It's out there on everywhere you would go. Make sure you check that out. Go to limberlostmusic.com and buy something, as well as learn about the band. And guys, this has been fun. Thanks for joining me here on CHRIS Akin Presents.
All right. Thanks for having us, man.
Your daily metal fix is on Rumble. Watch the Classic Metal Show episodes free or go commercial free with a premium subscription. Find your Classic Metal Show now at rumble.com/c/CMS, rumble.com/c/CMS.